Hi, this is Dr. Tenesha Wards here with Infinity Wellness Center, and we are interviewing somebody who's graduated our program, Adasha. I'm so excited to let everybody hear your story because it's huge. It's amazing. I know it's going to help so many people. So I just want to kind of start from the beginning. Tell me about your health from the last 20 years. What have been the biggest symptoms? And then even the last 10, I know were even worse. So just start there.
I was always just a normal person. And at some point after I had my second child, which I had her in 1995, my health started, I was just really tired all the time. And I didn't know what to do. And doctors did tests and everything and couldn't figure out what was wrong. I had a primary care doctor that I saw regularly for sinus infections. And I didn't realize how much I saw him till I got my medical records. I saw him at least every month for something. And you don't know how sick you are until you go back and look and you're like, my gosh. But he did every test he could. He was giving me B12 shots and everything. And then my face started to swell. And I was at work one day and one of my coworkers who saw me every day said, your face is really swollen. There's something wrong. So he sent me to a specialist and she ran every test there was and she thought I had lupus. So the next day, I was actually leaving for Austin for training for a week. And I got a phone call from them that said, where's your nearest pharmacy? Because your thyroid is not working. Your numbers were 56. We're going to call in medicine right now and go get it. And I was like, oh, the solution to all my problems. Not. Okay. So I start the medicine and I can't say I was ever the same. I don't think that it makes your body work. I think it makes your labs look good. Yep. That's how I feel. And throughout this whole thing, I may talk about stuff that other people believe is true, but from my own experiences, I'm a research-aholic. From what I've researched and read compared to what I've experienced over and over, I don't think it helps your body at all. It just makes your labs look good. It didn't help any of my symptoms, except maybe my swelling in my face went down, but they could not lose weight. My doctor put me on every diet pill there was. And then finally, he sent me for weight loss surgery. So I had weight loss surgery. And then after that, I had a good 5 years. I lost 100 pounds in 8 months, and I had a good 5 years. It was probably the most productive time in my life. I lived in Houston. I was working at a law firm, making a lot of money downtown. And I bought my first home. I had a car. I was raising 3 kids by myself. I was the soccer mom, the cheer mom, everything nonstop. I would fall asleep with my laptop on my bed every night with my hands on it. And my daughter would take it off and cover me up because I was a workaholic.
How many people are going through that right now, right? Yeah.
Well, I don't like to do anything halfway. It was like, if I can't do it perfect, then I'm going to stay up all night until it's perfect. And that's how I've always been. Don't know where that came from because it's not genetic. It didn't go downward, but sorry, kids. So
what happened after that?
While I was in that process, I had a series of surgeries where I had a sinus infection, went to a doctor, and he said I had MRSA. Put me on antibiotics. I was allergic to them. So I could either go in the hospital or have a PICC line inserted and do the IVs every night myself. I could not miss work with 3 kids. So I had the PICC line inserted and I went to work every day and I came home and did my IV. And I had this compounded stuff sent to me that I had to put in my sinuses every night. And after 2 weeks of that, they took the PICC line out and I had to have sinus surgery. Well, that was mainly because this whole sinus had a cyst in it. My nose had been broken from running into a glass door full speed. And it was all like this. So he fixed everything, drilled out my sinuses. So no more sinus infections, which for my sinus infections, they kept giving me doxycycline. So I basically lived on that all those years. Probably every month I would get a sinus infection until that surgery. And that was the end of 2008. And then I had a miscarriage. And then 2 weeks later, the day of the Super Bowl, it was the day before the Super Bowl. I had gone to work and eaten fish tacos. And then the night of the Super Bowl, I started throwing up. The next morning, it was so bad. By 2 p.m., I had to go to the ER. And, when you're by yourself, no one's watching you to say, hey, guess what? You look really bad. I just knew my migraine hurt so bad. And I went in and said, please help my head. So by the time they got me in their ran tests, you need emergency surgery. You have free fluid in your abdomen. And
wow.
I was on medicine for the head, didn't know what. I was like, okay, whatever. So I did emergency surgery at 2 a.m. and I was septic. I had tubes coming out of me. I was on IVs that looked bright green for 11 days, laying in a bed in isolation for 11 days. And they finally took the tubes out and sent me home. I couldn't keep food down. Had to go back in the hospital. Couldn't keep food down. They ran every test on me, sent me to a liver specialist. There's nothing wrong with you. We can't find any reason why you can't keep food down, why you weigh 117 pounds at 5'7". And I looked like a skeleton. So it got to the point where I couldn't even get out of bed. And I tried to get another job because I lost my job. I tried to get another job close by. So I started going to that job, and I probably called in sick at least twice a week because I just couldn't get out of bed. And I had no energy and I hurt all over. And then I remembered back when the doctor had told me that I had hypothyroidism. She had mentioned fibromyalgia. And so I said, oh yeah, I forgot. I think I have that. And so I looked back and she had diagnosed me with that. So I started seeing doctors for fibromyalgia. And I saw doctors after I lost my house, my car, everything. I had to move home because I was denied disability. Had to move home to my mom's house and lost one daughter to her dad's house because I just couldn't get up and get her ready. My oldest daughter went to live with her dad, but my son was still with me. And from that point on, my life is almost like a blur. I remember bits and pieces of mostly living in doctor's offices. And I remembered when I was at the doctor one time and there was an elderly couple next to me, and they said, they were talking and they were so cute. And they said, so what are you here for? And I said, I don't know. And they said, well, we worked our whole lives to retire so we could sit in the doctor's office. And that has stayed with me forever. And I always said, that's not going to be me. That's not going to be me. And then there I was in my 40s, sitting in doctor's offices all the time.
And what were the treatments? What were they doing for fibromyalgia at that time? Or not a whole lot? Were you just being kind of...
There was nothing for pain. I mean, there was nothing ever for pain. The main thing was, if you get good sleep at night, then you won't be tired during the day and you won't hurt. So let's dope you up at night and you'll sleep all night and then you'll wake up refreshed and be able to work. Well,
no,
I did it. And, I did wake up refreshed. It wasn't like that hangover Tylenol PM.
Oh, okay.
Or Benadryl. It was clonazepam, and it was like a 0.5 lowest dose. And it was the specialist who said, if you let your body rest while you're sleeping, then when you wake up, it won't hurt. You won't be tired and all this. You just need to get good rest. Well, that is true for everybody.
Yeah, sure.
But it's not true for someone who has other problems. And so I would wake up and I would go through these cycles. I started the cycles, and what I would have one good week. I could do everything, and then I would overdo it. Now I know I would overdo it. and I would start to go down. I had a week of going down where I would panic. I knew I was going down. I would do everything I could because I knew I was going down. I would get all the food ready to have next to my bed, because after that week, the next week was down. Don't get out of bed. Don't wake up. Nothing. I'd make sure someone was there to make sure I ate, make sure I drank something, because I would not remember anything for a week. And then I would slowly start to wake up and then have insomnia for a week. And that was my getting back to strong week. And then I'd have a good week and it would all repeat. And that went on for years. I went to every specialist. And the worst thing probably that ever happened is the neurologist that I was seeing. The last visit I had with him, I think, was 2015. And he ran every test again. He said, I see nothing but chronic pain. You have a chronic pain issue. I'm gonna send you to pain management. And I knew what pain management was. And I'd seen zombies come out of pain management. It may not be for everyone, but the people I knew were zombies. So I said, I really don't like to take those kinds of medicines. And I was bawling, can you please do something else? And he said, I've done everything I can for you. My advice is do what you can while you still can. Like, this is going to get worse.
He gave up.
You have no choice. You have no options. I've been seeing you for 5 years. There's nothing more I can do for you. I'm going to send you and let you be drugged out so you don't know how much pain you're in until you die.
He was giving up. Yeah, he was giving up. Nowhere did anybody say, well, what could be causing the pain? What's causing this kind of fatigue? What's causing the crashes? Is that
They all
true?
thought it was neurological.
Okay, but they never could figure out why or what. Tell me about, I know it was a low point when you found me. Tell me about where you were. Just tell us that day. Okay. That still makes my heart sink.
I'm gonna cry.
I know. If you cry, I'll cry. I'm gonna cry. Because it's a couple years, 5-6 years later.
In 2017, I was living next to my mom and my stepdad, and he had ALS, and I was helping take care of him. Because my mom has COPD. She can barely take care of herself. She was taking care of him. So I moved next door to help take care of them. I was living in an RV, a tiny RV where I could reach everything. I had learned how to be sick. I had accepted it and learned how to be sick, learned how to adapt to my sickness, what I could and couldn't do, which was mostly lay in the RV, sometimes go outside, sometimes do a few things. I was living off of child support. I have custody of my granddaughter, and $500 a month. We paid for our RV spot and we just existed. I gave her the best I could and she was happy. She still is. But in 2017, we moved from the RV park next door to help with him. And on May 1st, he died. Self-inflicted, and my whole life changed. I had to find a job because I couldn't stay there. So I found a job where I could live in the house for free and answer the phones. So sometimes it was from my bed, sometimes it was from the desk. It depended on the cycle. And I was still on this regimen of medications, all these prescriptions that are still in my drawer of all these drugs to supposedly just not pain management, because I never went there. But I did agree to take gabapentin because the pain was so incredibly bad. I couldn't handle it. One day I called, I said, I can't take it. But I called my primary care doctor, and that's what they gave me, the lowest dose. So, and I refused to go up on dosage because I don't want to not feel my body. Right. I don't like that. I don't like to take medicine that makes me feel different or negative in any way. But I was working there, and eventually that became too much. And during that next summer of 2018, my boss moved us to the farm where I am now. And so life is easy here. I can do whatever here, but I don't do anything. And so it became to where I was just like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing anymore. What is my purpose? And then in 2019, my little sister died, and it was August 24th. And I begged God to take me instead of her, because she wasn't sick. She just didn't wake up one day. And I was the sick one. I was the one who was supposed to die and not her. And for 3 days, I held her hand and said, please, God, take me instead of her, please. And he didn't. And so I was under the impression that I still had a purpose here on earth for some reason, that she had served hers and I hadn't yet. So from that day on, I kept saying, please tell me my purpose quick, because I'm losing it here by myself. Because she was my best friend. And I had raised her. So it was like losing a child. So from that point on, you know, things just were not good. And I remember on Facebook one day, I had seen one of your little ads over on the side, and I clicked on it. And it said, enter your email address. It basically said, are you tired? Are you weak? Are you sick? And has your doctor given up on you? And I was like, yes, put your email here. And so I put my email there and started getting emails from you. Well, as you know, I never check my email. But one day I was sitting on the floor next to my closet, and I was trying to be productive and doing something, because I'm the type of person, I have to have purpose in my life. I have to have it. I can't do a job that doesn't have purpose, that's not benefiting someone in mankind. You know, I don't want to benefit big money makers or the lawyers and stuff. That wasn't for me. And so I was trying to have some purpose in organizing my shoes or something. And I had my laptop next to me, and one of your things popped up again. And I clicked on it, it had the video, and it was you describing me 100%. And it said, for a free consultation, and I put my stuff in, and 10 minutes later my phone rang, and it was you. It wasn't a representative. It wasn't your secretary. It was you. And I was like, what? Who? What? And I'm still sitting on the floor crying because I want to die. I was begging God to let me die. And you said, okay, tell me your symptoms. And I told you everything. And you said, we can fix that. And I said, no way. And you said, yeah, we can fix that. And I said, okay. So that was the day you saved my life, because I wanted to die. No matter what it took that day, I wanted to die.
What was it in the video or the email that made you sign up for the phone call? Because at that time we were running a free webinar, we were doing free consults. What was it? I have a script I'm trying to stick to. Having a hard time getting it out. What was it in the video that stood out to you that you said, yeah, this was me?
You were 100% describing that no one could explain my symptoms. Every test had been run and there were no answers. And no matter what I did or took or anything, I was still tired. I couldn't think and all these things. You were describing me to the exact purpose. And if I'd seen all these doctors and
I've been there. Yeah, I'd been there as well.
I just quit going to doctors.
Yeah, I'd been there as well, and all they could give was antidepressants and pain meds. Same thing. Yeah. Whew. Okay, so we did the consult. You ended up joining our practice, our program. Yeah. One of them. So
you said I have one spot left in my protocol.
Oh yeah, yep. That's when we were doing it a group at a time. You're right. Yeah. So tell me what happened at that point. I know that we ran a bunch of labs. We got a history. Kind of tell me your experience of that. Next couple steps.
Right. You sent me a box. I got my box. I was like, oh, my box. Because that day forward, I had hope. I had hope that I had tried everything, but I tried this. I had not tried.
So that's a good question.
Realm.
Had you done anything holistic at all before? No. It was all traditional Western medicine, drugs, and surgery.
I was scared of it.
Oh, that's interesting. Tell me why, because I know there's a lot of people that are timid out there, right? They're like, is this really going to work? What was your fear?
Fear of the unknown. Because there's a lot of people, especially in Western medicine, you know, don't take St. John's wort. And then if you have a surgery, you'll die or something like that. I just remember everything I ever heard about nutritional supplements were negative. And, you know, that they're experimental and they're not approved and all this stuff. And I didn't know enough about it. I didn't even understand enough about my own body, because no doctor ever told me you're like this because of this. You're like this because of this, ever. They didn't even tell me my test results most of the time. I had to find out later when I got records that they had tested me for Lyme. They had tested me for this, that I have all these things wrong in my back, that I have arthritis, osteoporosis. I'm sorry, the cats.
That's okay. I think it makes for a fun video. Okay. No, that's interesting, because you're right. So many people, it's not explained to them. I was on a phone call with a patient yesterday who had an ultrasound of her thyroid, and she sent it to me. And I was like, well, who ordered this? She said, my endocrinologist. I said, well, what did they say? She goes, I don't know. There was a woman on the phone who couldn't pronounce goiter, who was telling me about my results. And she said, but basically it's normal. And I'm looking at it and it's talking about a goiter. And she said she couldn't even pronounce it. And I knew that she was pronouncing it wrong. So I just got off the phone.
Yeah.
she didn't even know. She didn't even know what's going on. And that, we've got to change those things. We've got to change the fear of things at work that correct your body, but B, also just not having a partnership with your patient, and not explaining simple physiology that can, you know, you're very smart and do research stuff. So as soon as we explain something, you're like, oh, okay, this and this and this, and I need to do this. Like, if you know, people know how their computers work and their cars work better than how their thyroid works, because it's never taught.
Amazingly brilliant.
Yes. Yeah. So that was in your box. So tell us about your box. When your box arrived, which is, we call your welcome kit.
I was so excited. I said, here we go. This is the one cure all. This is my last hope, my last chance. And if anything's gonna fix me, it's gonna be this. And I just knew it. And I'll tell you, I have ESP. People don't believe in it, but I do. And Annie said I do too. So I have ESP. But I knew this was gonna work. I knew this was the answer, and that's why I had hope. But in my box were it was a test for like mold in the house. It was a test for my genetics. It was a test for Lyme. It talked about the test for the yeast where you spit in the cup and all that, and
blood work, right? Or did you have blood work? Did I send you? I sent you blood labs. Yep.
Yeah.
Blood labs.
And I got my book and some gut repair powder to start, and the modules online, instructions for all of this. And so in our journal, we're supposed to, and this is my healing journal, and it's full. It is full.
I love it. Yeah, you had homework, right? Like, this isn't easy. I don't give you one pill that fixes stuff. So we did the testing, and you said you had some work to get started, right? Because it's a partnership. You have to, we have to change the mind and the body. We can't just change one. We're one of the only countries in the world that separates those two things. So there's some work. There's some spiritual work. I don't even know if I'd call it spiritual work. I'd call it just mental mind-body connection work.
Spiritual work.
Yeah.
I grabbed every spiritual thing you threw at me. So
good.
I think it's important. I think it's important. You cannot go through this and not work your mind as well.
Well, something you said earlier grabbed me. I learned how to be sick.
Yes, we have to say that. Because
we have to rewire that.
I had to come to a realization, because during our journey together, I got really well, really fast, because I follow everything to a T. once I realized the poisons, and I call them poisons, in our food, I said, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I've been putting that in my body. And none, still to this day.
What was it that you were eating daily that we talk about?
Zebra cakes.
Zebra cake. The zebra cakes.
Of zebra cakes and Dr. Peppers every day.
Yeah. So we weren't fueling
of gluten and sugar poison.
Yeah. We weren't fueling the body to heal, right? Like we just weren't. Yeah.
Oh, killing myself.
So let's talk about the test, because I think this is important, because you said you were tested for Lyme before from your neurologist, but I did a different Lyme test.
The Western blot.
Yeah, which is about 60 to 65% accurate. We know that that's, not a good test. The test we sent you was a urine test. It's about 85 to 90% accurate. Still not 100%. There's no perfect test for Lyme, unfortunately, but we found that. So yeah, tell us about your test results.
Easily. It showed two forms of it. It showed, I think, one that was really old. And I remember in college when I was hunting, yes, I hunt deer. I had a bite on the back of my leg. It was really big. I went to the doctor. He sent me to a specialist that's called
infectious disease doctor.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he said, well, something bit you. But that was like 1987.
Well, to his credit, we didn't know as much about it then. However,
he gave me antibiotics. I took them for 2 weeks. And,
not enough.
I was still healthy, so it didn't really matter. Mm-hmm. Didn't realize it, but I know now I remember what it looked like. It was a tick. It had to be. But when I was growing up, we played in the woods. Our nightly routine was my aunt lighting a match and burning the ticks off of our bodies. They were everywhere. We were covered in them all the time.
Yeah.
But I remember that one because it was so bad that I had to go to the doctor about it. And then since then, I know I've been, we have dogs. We live in the woods in Southeast Texas. And so there's a newer one that's running rampant and having a party in there. And so the test showed both of those, which that same lab I told you about that the neurologist never told me about, he also did one of my brain, and it said changes in the frontal lobe with white spots. And it said could be Lyme.
Wow, no that's right.
That's 2015.
So that's interesting. So I think a lot of people have that same story. Oh, I was bit by ticks as a young kid all the time. Lyme can lie dormant, and then other things happen in your life and it can come out. So, right, you went through extensive trauma. You were sick and caretaking. You lost somebody really close to you, like lost jobs. Trauma after trauma lowers the immune system, and these bugs that have been hanging out waiting for an opportunistic time to attack comes out. And the white spots in your brain, there's a lot of evidence that MS could be Lyme disease that has crossed the blood-brain barrier, and the body's doing what it's supposed to do. It's attacking the bug, which is then the brain is getting attacked too. That's not been actually proven, but it's very possible. I'm actually impressed they said could be Lyme back then. Yes. Disappointed no one ever said that to you, because you'd be in a different place, right? You would have researched that. So again, just my husband calls me a skeptic because I just don't trust Western medicine these days. Like they failed me. Now, let's get clear. If I get in a car accident and I broke my leg, like take me to the ER, I need help. But right, emergency care, they have a time and place, right? Life-saving stuff. But to find these things, to put the pieces together, they're failing. So yes. We found Lyme. Big one, big neurological, I think probably source of your pain that they've been numbing. Tell me what else. We did the genetic test. We found that you're a poor detoxer. There's a lot going on there that I think matters.
I have the MTHFR genetic defect. So my body doesn't recognize toxins from good stuff. It just takes it all in and says, okay, where normally it would say, oh, that's Lyme, I need to kick that back out. It didn't. It just took it all in and kept it. And so it all stays in my body and it doesn't methylate it out. So living in a toxic environment, which I never really knew what toxins were, I was a bleach cleaner.
Yeah.
everything with bleach because
my grandma did that. Everything with bleach.
I need to have that smell to know it was clean. I mean, and I'd come out going, oh God. And, you know, I was in bed for a day after cleaning. But,
you know, people with methylation issues, I hear this all the time, you know, severe methylation issues, and they're toxic. And this may be you, they can't walk down the cleaning aisle at the grocery store or past a Dillard's perfume counter without getting a headache, because you can't, that stuff just affects you.
I can't walk in a house where someone's burning a candle.
And the plugins, oh, that's toxic. Yeah. Well, and also looking at what foods you were doing, right? That was all very toxic also. So that was a big one. And then we ran blood. So we found a lot there. I had
been sleeping against a wall where a room was built on, and in between the two walls was not sealed, and there was mold. So my head was sleeping against mold every night.
You had like not just a trifecta. I mean, there was a lot of things going on. So we just started uncovering those one by one. And a lot of it was
out.
Yep. A lot of it was uncovered. A lot of it was very much addressed in the modules. Tell us kind of how the modules worked. I remember you saying you really liked the way they were broken down. So yeah, kind of tell us how the program worked, the Infinity Way program of just watching. A lot of it we could recover, or we could uncover in the modules, but also we had to go in and personalize things to you.
Right. Well, one thing that I can sum it all up and say, it's like one of those movies that you don't really understand the bits and pieces till you get to the end and you see the ending. You're like, oh, okay, I got it. That was great. Because you go through a module and you learn about this, and you go to the next module and you learn about this. And with each module, you're learning about your body and why you need to do this. Like the first thing is cutting out all whites in your diet, which was zebra cakes. And then the next week you start the repair bite diet, and everyone thinks it's so hard. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't eat this. And I'm like, stop. Just make a list of what you can eat. That's easier.
That's great. That's great advice.
So in the back of my book is the list of what I can eat because I wrote it down. It was easier to shop that way. And basically it's anything that you can pronounce, that you can grow. You know, if you can't pronounce anything,
you can eat food.
Don't go to the middle part of the grocery store. Stay on the outside. Don't go in the middle. That's the bad place.
Yeah, news alert, you can eat food. That kind of thing.
It's good. I am a salad and fruit-aholic. I am a prebiotic, bionic woman.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
For the next 3 weeks, it was that.
And it's not forever, right? Like we clean out the body, repair for 3 weeks. We can add some things back in and see how you react. So it's not crazy. It's not lifelong.
You're letting your gut rest and digest and give it a break. So, because you're about to put it through the gamut. You're about to start healing your body, and your gut's one of the biggest organs in your body that's necessary for all of digestion to take place, because then from digestion, it goes everywhere it's supposed to go. And if you've got yucky stuff in there, if you have leaky gut, all that yucky stuff is going everywhere instead. So I just could envision first grade glue in my gut going out into my body and sticking everywhere. And that when I do something like that, then I'm like, no glue for me. So it was really easy for me to do the diet. Plus I found, you know, through you and the group and other ways, the different stuff at HEB that I could substitute. My hardest thing those 3 weeks was tomatoes, because I love tomatoes.
And that's not for everybody forever. That's just giving the gut a break.
You can add back in one at a time at the end. And the first time I tried an egg, it did bad. Yeah. But we waited, and then because my gut, I cannot even imagine what it looked like in there. I don't even want to know. But it probably looked like a great big zebra cake. But the second time I tried eggs, they were okay.
Because we did more healing.
Right.
Yep.
And then tomatoes were next, and they're good.
Good. Yay.
I
And we
stay on the
celebrate,
diet.
we
I stay on the
celebrate
diet.
those wins. Yeah. And some
Yeah.
people just feel better, you know, figuring out what's specific to you, you can tolerate, and then staying on. You have been such a good student. Like, you could teach this stuff. You have been one of my truly favorite people to work with, has made the biggest transition, like literally on the floor, wanting your life to end, to the bionic woman who eats her salads. I want to share your symptoms, because um I think this matters. I think it's really good to kind of go through, you know, what exactly, let me just get it up here, what exactly you were dealing with. Yeah, your intake symptoms. Yeah, the intake form is really extensive. Let me just share this here. Yeah, where we started, what we dealt with, and I'm dealing with a touch screen. Sorry. Okay, can you see that? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Okay. So when you started, July 2020 is when I started measuring the symptoms. I mean, gosh, looking back, I wonder if these should have been 10s, but fatigue was at a 9, migraines at a 7, headaches, depression, panic attacks, can't burp. But some of the, I don't even know if you probably remember all of these, because life's been so different. Fear of death. You couldn't leave your house. That's something we didn't mention, right? Or,
Well, that's another thing. In 2015, my doctor sent me to a psychologist to be tested for early onset dementia because I could not remember. I had 8 hours.
I remember.
And he said it was from stress and that I had an unnatural fear of death.
Yeah.
That is what he said in his report.
I've seen that with Lyme.
There's nothing wrong with me. I was just stressed from feeling like I was going to die.
I'll tell you, I've seen that in Lyme. I've seen that in mold toxicity. I've seen that in genetic defects. So, and you know, this was July. Oh, sorry. This was July 2020. And it wasn't overnight. I think that's important for us to explain, right? Healing takes time. Healing's a process. You know,
Yeah.
If you're covering it up with a pill, that could be overnight. But if you're truly healing the body, the cells have to churn over. And so here, 8, 9, August, September, we started in the gut repair, and like your symptoms just started to fall. Like they just started to fall.
I know.
Fatigue went down to a 4. You were getting out of bed, migraines. And then, we started detoxing. Things went up. Life happens. You had some stressful stuff. The fatigue went back to 9s. Life happens. So we have to constantly support our bodies. Oh, narcolepsy. That. Let's talk about that for a second. And then, look at our final, the last couple months, 0s. But yeah, and then this one here, 1 is allergies. Like, okay, we live in Central Texas. We have to constantly, but yeah, tell me about and this is stunning, like 10s and 9s to 0s, but tell me about the narcolepsy. That's an interesting one too.
Narcolepsy was really scary. It started probably about 5 years ago, where I would just be sitting at my desk and blink in a blink. And then I would wake up and I'd be like, what just happened? Or I actually was driving. I would be driving and next thing I knew, I ran in the back of a school bus. And then finally I started like feeling it coming instead of just the blink. And I would know to pull over and sleep.
Oh.
But
yeah, you can't live like that. You can't drive.
No.
You can't go anywhere.
I'm not allowed to drive because of it. To this day, I haven't, they told me not to drive, and I don't allow myself to drive just for still the brain programming that I'm still sick. Like we were talking about earlier. The other day I was trying to figure out what is causing me to not be fully well. And it's because I have not learned to be well. I have to relearn. It took me 10 years to convince myself I was sick. So now I have to convince myself that I'm not. And I can tell from my first talk with you on video where we're going over my genetics, and I sound like, literally, excuse this, a crackhead.
Yeah, we recorded it.
And I watched that back and I'm like, what is wrong with me? And I didn't realize how bad it was because all of those years, my mother was would tell everybody I was on drugs. I was a drug head. My whole family thought I was a drug head. That's why no one would help me.
Oh,
That's
wow.
why for 5 years, because no one wanted a drug head in their house. And
Oh,
I sounded like one. No wonder. I probably,
I remember.
Okay. But now watching back, and I don't really know what I sound like now, but I talked to my brother.
Totally fine. Yeah, normal.
Yeah, I talked to my brother-in-law recently, and his girlfriend called me because she felt I needed to know this. And she said, Adasha, I think you need to hear this because I know how much you respect your brother-in-law. We grew up together. He's like my brother, and he's like my best guy friend. And we're always honest with each other. And he said, she said, he called me, he said, I just got off the phone with Adasha. And, I always wondered all these years when her mom would say she's on drugs. I thought, maybe she is. He said, but she just sounded the best she's sounded in 10 years. She sounded completely coherent. And she said, I just thought you needed to know that. And coming from him, the one person that you want people to believe in you, that you're not on drugs. And so she knew why, because she's going kind of through the similar issues. So she knew why, and she felt that I needed to know that.
You can't get a better testimonial than somebody from the outside, right? Like that. Just thank you for sharing that and sharing your story. And
I lived there, so he knew.
Yeah.
What I felt like.
What advice would you give somebody who's been where you were or is where you were, scared to try things new? What would you tell them? What advice would you have?
When I get to the end of my rope and I feel like I've tried everything and my fear of the unknown takes over, even being the researchist I am, I didn't even have the energy to research what you were about to do to me, because I was like, I don't care. Don't be scared, because if me being the skeptic that I am and going through this process and now being able to remember the word spoon when I ask for something to eat, and being so self-aware of my surroundings and I feel smart again. I felt so dumb for so long that I would overload myself with medications trying to make myself smarter. And I'm not dumb anymore. And that's the first thing that you'll feel is the clarity of your mind. And you're like, oh my gosh.
Adasha, you were never dumb. Did I not know this? You were never dumb. You were sick. You were never dumb. You were sick.
I was brain barrier challenged.
Yes, you had toxins and bugs in your body that needed to come out. And again, I can't tell you how much your story means to our work and what we do, and just the fact that you're willing to share it and be so open. I know it's going to touch people, and I know that there's people right now where you were. And just again, thank you so much for sharing. And it just touches my heart to hear how great your life is and what you're doing now. And I know you're going to do something great with this story. You're going to do something great with this transformation, whether you know it yet or not. You're going to.
Anything my life.
Anything else you want to tell to people before we sign off?
Don't wait. Don't wait. Do it before you get too far. Do it now. Don't wait.
That's great. And know your body can heal. Like, you're a perfect example of the power of the body's healing ability.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. If you could just give it the right stuff.
At 53, I can heal.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I know this is going to help so many people.
I hope so.
It's been a pleasure walking this journey with you. So thank you.
Thank you.